So thank you for joining me tonight. My name is Rafi Shulman, and I'm the co-founder of Olim Advisors. It's such a pleasure to have you here tonight. We have over 250 people from around the world, which is just truly, truly amazing. And it's great to be able to share information and to guide you as well through the process. I'd like to just take a moment and introduce you to our amazing panelists who have joined us tonight. We'll start with Naomi Shiker, who is an Aliyah advisor working with us here at Olim Advisors. Next, we have Alon Ben David, who works for Remax Vision, which is the realtor in Jerusalem that we work with. Next, we have Avraham Levinsky, who is the real estate lawyer that we work with. Next is Daniel Engelsman, who's one of the owners of Isra Transfer. Next is Darren Rich, who is one of the owners of Home in Israel, which is the realtor we work with in Netanya. Actually, Eliran, did Eliran join, Naomi? I didn't see him here. I'm sorry, everybody. Forgot to add him here. So I think he's going to join us momentarily. Eliran Hadaz, who is the sales manager of Electra Residence in Nahariya. And then we have with us Eitan Bennett, who also works for Isra Transfer. Next is Howie Margon, who is one of the residents in Jerusalem. Next, we have Karen Havenstock and Artie Jacobowitz, who live up in Nahariya Achziv area. Next, we have Natan Nagar, who is our mortgage broker, who works for Omega Mortgages. And next, we have Rebecca Franks, who's one of the owners of Habayit Shelano, which is the realtor in Modiin. Shaya hopefully will join us. He's a resident in Netanya. And last but not least, we have Tamari Cohen, who is a resident in Modiin. So thank you, everyone, so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And with that, we can get started. I just want to mention a few quick things. First of all, we're going to be recording this. If you come late or if you're leaving early, don't worry about it. We'll share the presentation. We'll send an email with a recording so everyone can watch it. Feel free to share it. Also, we're going to have everyone's contact information. So I strongly encourage you to reach out to us so we can have one-on-one conversations, really understand your needs, understand what you're looking for, and we can figure out how we can help. And last but not least, we will have a Q&A session at the end. So, put your questions in the chat window, and we will get to as many questions as possible. For those of you who are not familiar with Olim Advisors, I just want to share with you just quickly who we are and what we do. So we recognized back in 2016 that making Aliyah and buying a home in Israel is it's an overwhelming process, and a lot of people need help. They need guidance. And so that's what we set out to do. We set out to help people make Aliyah, whether it's finding the right community, finding the right schools, finding the right home, things like that, important decisions that one has to make before making Aliyah. And of course, once you get to Israel, we're here to navigate you through the bureaucracy, to help you deal with all the bureaucracy requirements, as well as ongoing challenges that you deal with on an ongoing basis. And then, of course, if you want to buy a home, whether you're living in Israel or you're outside of Israel, buying a home is different. It's a huge investment. There's a lot of factors that you need to keep in mind. And so we want to make sure that we can help you. So whether you're making Aliyah or you're buying a home, don't do it alone. Make sure that you reach out to us. Make sure that you reach out to the wonderful panel here and let us help you. Naomi, is Eliran join us? Yeah, he's on. Excellent. Hey, Eliran. Okay, so let's get started. So the first topic is making Aliyah in your 50s, 60s, and 70s and 80s. So the three main challenges that you really need to be aware of, that you need to think about. The first one is financial. What's the cost of living? What should you do with investments? Things like that. The second important factor is healthcare, how to make sure you have the right insurance coverage, how to make sure that your medication is covered, and topics like that. And then the third main point is, where do you want to live? What location, what your lifestyle is going to be. So let's drill into each one. Let's get into a little bit more detail. So when it comes to financial, there's a few things for you to keep in mind. First of all, you want to make sure that you have a budget. It doesn't have to be exactly to the dollar, to the shekel, but you want to have a general sense of how much it's going to cost for you to live in Israel. If you need help with that, Nefesh B'Nefesh has a great online budget, sample budget. You can email me and I'll send you a link so that you get a sense of what your cost will be in Israel. Now, of course, when you're looking at the budget, there's two parts of the equation. There's your expenses and your income. So to give some thought to how you can lower your expenses. It could be the one-time expenses, like things that you ship to Israel, buying furniture, buying appliances in Israel, but definitely things that you can do to lower your one-time expenses. And then, of course, ongoing expenses. What's your lifestyle like? Are you going to go out every night? Are you going to buy a car? Are you going to use public transportation? There are a number of things that you can do to lower your expenses, and we can, of course, talk to you and help you figure that out. Now, on the other side of the equation, you have your income, and a lot of people, when they come in the 50s and 60s and 70s, they have a lot of experience, a lot of context in the companies in Israel that would love to hire you as a consultant, part-time, full-time. And so it's a great way for you to supplement your income and make sure that you can live in Israel financially secure. Next point is healthcare. So there's 4 Kupat Cholim, there's 4 HMOs that you can choose from in Israel. They're all pretty much the same. They're regulated by the government, so the fees are the same. The quality of service is pretty much the same. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have adequate coverage of doctors who speak your language, whether it's English, Spanish, French, German, whatever it might be. You want to reach out to people who will live in your city, live in your neighborhood, and find out which Kupa, which HMO has a lot of doctors that speak your language. Now, if you have medical conditions and you need to use a specialist, then that's an important thing that you need to find out beforehand, because not all specialists belong to all HMOs, to all Kupat Cholim. And so if you need a specialist and they only belong to one HMO, then that's probably the Kupat Cholim that you want to join. And then the last thing I want to talk about is keep in mind that it takes a long time to make appointments. Sometimes it can take a few weeks to make appointments. So you want to plan in advance, whether it's a well visit or other kind of medical appointments. If you book those appointments in advance, you won't have to worry about it. You'll be able to see your doctors when you need to. The last point here is, where do you want to live? So what I recommend to people is a little exercise where they close their eyes and they try and picture what they see when they walk out of their door of their house, the door of their building. What do you see? Is it an urban setting with a lot of buses and malls and schools? Or is it more suburban? Are you living by the beach? Are you living up north? What do you hear? Is it mostly English? It's a mix of English and Hebrew. These are all things that you need to think about, because this is really an opportunity for you to start a new chapter of your life. So really think through what lifestyle you want. And of course, keep in mind the practical factors like transportation, proximity to families. And of course, if you're going to be working, you want to be relatively close to your job. The next topic is for parents who are making Aliyah with children, with kids. If you would have asked me a few years ago, I would have told you that the cutoff age is around 10, 11 years old. In other words, families with children who are older typically wouldn't recommend that you make Aliyah. That has changed dramatically. Now families are coming with children who are 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, and they're doing that because there's so much more support. There's so many more schools, there's so many more programs, and both academically and socially, it's so much easier for your children. So if you have older children and you're debating whether or not you should come, we should definitely talk about it. But the important point here is to keep in mind that there's a lot more support and much easier for your older children to acclimate. The other recommendation is to learn Hebrew before you get here, whether it's for you as parents or for your children. It doesn't mean that you have to be fluent, but if you can have a basic understanding, it will make a world of difference. So whether you watch shows in Hebrew, movies in Hebrew, you listen to music in Hebrew, different apps, there's so many resources out there to just help you get a basic understanding. And if you can have that basic understanding, it will make it so much easier for you and for your children to acclimate, to make friends, and to adjust. And the last point here is to have realistic expectations about school. Schools in Israel aren't necessarily worse or better than schools around the world, but they're different. The school days are much shorter. The class sizes typically are much bigger. Schools are much less formal. And so you need to just keep that in mind when your kids enroll in school. It's just different. The important thing to keep in mind here is that Israeli kids do well. They graduate school, they go to the army, they go to Shurut Leumi, they go to universities, they have their careers. So don't worry about your kids doing well. In time, they will do well. Just be ready to understand that the schools here are run differently, and it's something that is pretty eye-opening for parents. But at the end of the day, these kids, for the most part, will do just fine. And the last topic I want to talk about is buying a home in Israel. So there are a few things to keep in mind. The first one is where to move. The second one is, should you buy or rent? The third point is, what's the buying process like? And the fourth question or point is, who can I trust? And obviously, there's a lot of information that goes into this. So I'll kind of touch upon some of the key ones. And if you want to hear more, then reach out to me and we can go into more detail. So the first thing is where to move to. Like I was talking about beforehand, make a list of preferences. Think about where you want to live. What's important to you? Is it schools? Do you want to live near the beach? Do you want to live in an Anglo community, a religious community, by the airport, by family? Make a list of preferences and try and prioritize them. Recognize that you're probably not going to find a community that checks every box, but if you can find a community that checks most boxes, in all likelihood, you will do just fine. The second point is to buy to rent. And this is, of course, is a very big decision from two perspectives. The first one is a financial perspective. You have to think about it from your budget, like we talked about before. Typically, you have to put down at least 25%. And the time the mortgage broker will talk about this in a moment, you have to put down at least 25%. So that's a lot of money that you have to have up front. And then your ongoing expenses. Typically, mortgage payments are higher than rent payments. So you need to look at your budget and really figure out what you can afford to pay. Then you have two sides of the coin, so to speak, when it comes to buying versus renting. If you're going to rent, it gives you the flexibility. A lot of Olim rent it first for the first few years, and then once they decide where they want to settle, then they can go ahead and look to buy a home. The flip side of that is that you have more security if you buy. You're not going to have a landlord that might come to you and say, look, I'm selling the apartment, I'm selling the home, and you need to leave at the end of the lease. So a few things to consider when you're thinking about buying or renting. What's the buying process like? So it's very different probably from what you're accustomed to. One of the main reasons is that there's no central listing. There's no MLS, there's no Zillow. There are some websites, but a lot of the information is not accurate. And so what this means is that you really need to work with realtors who are well connected, realtors who know the areas, that ideally live in that area, that work in that area, that can work with other realtors to generate as much exposure for you to the properties that are available. Another concept is buying on paper, and that's something that's pretty popular in Israel. What that means is that you're buying something that's not built. You're buying it on blueprint. You're buying it on paper. The advantage to that is that, first of all, a lot of developers will give you a discount of 10 to 15%. The other advantage is that you can often customize the home if you're buying it early enough. So that's something that is very important to keep in mind. Of course, you want to make sure that you're working with a developer that's bank guaranteed so that the project goes through and you get the apartment that you paid for. And the last point here is you have to be able to move quickly. And what I mean by that is that if a property is priced right, it will sell quickly. So if you want to take a mortgage, make sure you're pre-approved. If you need to transfer money, make sure that you have your account set up. Make sure you work with a lawyer beforehand to really understand the process. So if you do see something that you want to buy, you can move forward quickly. And the last point is probably the most important one, is who should you trust? Who should you work with? And in Israel, there's a lot of players, a lot of companies, a lot of people in this industry. You need to make sure that you get recommendations. You need to make sure you get recommendations for the realtors, mortgage brokers, developers, real estate lawyers. Of course, we have our network of professionals, and we can introduce you to our network as well, because you want to make sure you're working with people who are honest and who will take good care of you. And as I mentioned, of course, you want to work with developers who are reputable, who are large, who are stable. Okay, so that covers my part of the discussion. Just quickly wanted to share with you to let you know that we have a lot of resources. There's a lot of information. So we have resources to help you go through that information, to help you turn to people. So we have a Facebook group, WhatsApp group. We have tips for Aliyah, tips for real estate. And the last thing is a little thank you, gesture of appreciation for those of you who attended today's webinar. If you sign up for one of our Aliyah services within the next couple of weeks, you can then get an additional 3 months of support free of charge. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Daniel, who's going to talk to you about transferring money through Isra Transfer.
Thank you, Rafi. Hi, everyone. Money transfer is normally the last thing that people think about when they're purchasing property or when they're making Aliyah. but it's probably one of the most or more important aspects that you have to consider before jumping in. So first of all, I'm just going to introduce myself. Okay, my name is Daniel Engelsman. I'm one of the owners of Israel Transfer, and with me as well is Eitan Bennett, who works with us, who will be available for any questions afterwards. So when thinking about transferring money, it's important to choose a company that you've been recommended and that has, market presence. So we've been around since 2008, same time that I made Aliyah and founded the company. We've been licensed by the Israel Capital Market Insurance and Savings Authority for the last 16 years, and we continue to be licensed. And we've been very fortunate over the last 16 years to help thousands of clients realize their dream of both Aliyah and purchasing homes in Israel. So it really is a privilege to help people. It's more than just a job. It's very meaningful to myself and my other co-founder that we actually help people move to this country. So why do you need to think about, transferring funds? So obviously everything that you do when you come here, almost everything, is denominated in shekel. And if you're making Aliyah or purchasing a property from overseas, you probably don't have shekel, and you probably have dollars or sterling, Australian dollars, Canadian dollars, whatever it may be, and you need to get that from that currency into shekel. There's many reasons that people use a service like ours. First of all, saving money is a big factor, and it helps in your purchases. Also, there's different payment methods that you're not used to in the UK, in the US, in Australia, when it comes to purchasing property. So there's this concept of shovarim, which is vouchers, which Rafi touched on a little bit, which is basically like your bank guarantee when you're purchasing a property on paper. So we can make those payments for you, whereas normally you can't do that yourself if you're overseas, and saves a lot of time and hassle for people. So we offer those types of payments for people. This graph really illustrates why you really have to think about the exchange rate before or during your Aliyah and when you're budgeting. So in March 2022, the dollar to shekel exchange rate was around 3.1, and in late October 2023, it was just below 4.1. So you're talking about around 25 to 30% difference on the exchange rate in the course of 18 months. Now, whether you're buying a property and you're committing to purchasing a property now, you're signing now, and you're signing, you have to make stage payments over the course of a few years. It can go up like it did in this example, but it can just as quickly come down. So budgeting is very important. The same when you're making Aliyah. My in-laws made Aliyah when the pound against the shekel was 8.8, and now we're sitting at about 4.5. So from no fault of their own, their pension payment halved in value just because of the exchange rate. It's the same value in pounds, but it's halved over the course of the last 15 years, just purely because of the exchange rates coming down. And we can probably blame Brexit for the pound falling that far. So another reason that people need to think about using a company like ours at Israel Transfer, when you're trying to deal with a bank here in Israel, it's very different to your home country. Normally they pick up the phone if you can get through to them and answer saying, what do you want? Rather than, hello, sir, how can I help you? When you're looking to transfer large sums of money as well, there's documentation that's needed to prove the source of your money. We can go into this in a lot more detail, but we'll take questions later and afterwards. But you do need to prove to the bank the source of your funds, which can be in many different ways. It can be in a CPA letter, it can be providing your tax return, but we can help you through that whole process of gathering the right documentation to make sure that your transfer of funds goes smoothly. And yeah, we don't want to go, it's a very detailed subject, but that's the very basics of why you need to think about it, as early as possible. And Eitan is available for you and myself if you've got any questions, more detailed questions, because everyone's story is different, everyone's exact needs are different, but we're more than happy to help in any way that we can.
Great. Thank you so much, Daniel. Okay, Avram, you're next. Avram? You having some problems, Mike? Abraham, we can't hear you. Okay, we'll have to come back to Abraham. I'm not sure. Natan, you want to take over?
Okay. All right. So first of all, like Rafi mentioned, I think it's really just amazing that we're all gathering here. This time, as opposed to in our last webinar, I'm back from reserve duty. And what I'm going to try and cover in the scope of this presentation is pointing out some of the differences between an Israeli mortgage and a mortgage that you're used to. On a fundamental level, a mortgage is a mortgage is a mortgage, right? You need liquidity, you need financing from the bank, you need the money, and the bank wants to protect the mortgage by backing it up with the house. But besides for that, it really pays to look into the details because that's where things really do start to vary. So if we just go on to the next slide. Right, so normally in the United States, we're used to a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Here in Israel, you can get a fixed rate, but you can also get a variable rate. It can vary once a month, once every 12 months or a year. Bank of Olim just started once every 18 months, every 2 years, 2.5 years, 5 years, 7 years. There are lots of options in terms of the variance and the level of stability that you want to bring to your mortgage, as well as the level of flexibility. And in addition to that, you can also decide to index your mortgage to Israeli inflation or Israeli Consumer Price Index. After taking those two into account, which already means you have 4 different types of loans that you can go with, you can also choose what duration you want. So as long as you're going yearly, it doesn't have to be a 30-year mortgage. It can be a 25-year, it can be a 24-year, it can be a 20-year, 27-year, 19, whatever it is that you want. You can even have a 10-year mortgage. You get to choose just how long the duration lasts for. And finally, you're able to, instead of having your mortgage in shekels, you're able to choose to have it in dollars or in euros, which means that if you take all these together, you're not just picking one mortgage with either a fixed or a variable, either indexed or non-indexed, so on and so forth. You can actually build your mortgage as a composite of multiple subloans, where each subloan can be tailored using these parameters to your specific needs. So very, very, very quickly, you have near infinite options or possibilities to build your mortgage in a way that works for you and that's tailored to your needs, to your lifestyle, and the way that you think your life's going to play out, the extent that we would know that over the coming decades. Besides for that, it's important to really touch on LTV or loan to value. Just as a quick explanation, let's say that the home is worth $1 million and you want to get 600,000. That means that the bank is going to be financing 60% or 600,000 out of the million. And that would be 60% LTV. If they finance 750,000, that's 75%. And if they finance 450,000, that would be 45%, right? So what are the maximum LTVs or the maximum amount that banks are able to supply you with? If it's your first property and you're Israeli, you can get 75%, 75%. If you're not Israeli at all whatsoever, you can get up to 50% financing. And if one of you is Israeli and the other one is not Israeli, then you take the average, you can get 62.5% financing. Besides for that, if it's your second home, then you can only get up to 50% financing. I'll just put in a quick asterisk. That's just with banks. There are also non-banking lenders, but that's not within the scope of this presentation. Okay, how do we calculate income in order to see how much of a mortgage we can get? So generally speaking, you're looking for up to 39% of what I like to call your net income. net income after business expenses or taxes. So what actually ends up going into your bank account from your job. And after you subtract any car loans, mortgages, any expense that happens on a monthly basis. So you take out taxes and business expenses, you take out any loans of any sort, and that's what you're left with. You take 39% of that, and that's how you're able to calculate it. So let's say you're taking home 10,000 net every single month. You can pay a maximum of 3,900, just as an example. And I think really one of the last things to get into in terms of a generalized approach is when you're looking to budget for your mortgage, it's important to measure twice, cut once. Why? Because you need to be budgeting for two aspects. Number one, you have to figure out how much money you actually need, right? Mortgages aren't free. Mortgages cost money, and you have to figure out, okay, how much do I actually need so you're not spending extra beyond what you need. The second aspect is because there are so many different types of subloans here in Israel, and because it does make sense to not just stick with a 30-year fixed rate, but to go into that level of detail and tailor your subloans, that means that your monthly payments are going to change over time. You need to make sure that as you're planning for your mortgage to take you from step A all the way to step Z and through those middle steps in life where there's curveballs and there's ups and there's downs, that you're budgeting for reality. So one of the things that we do is we really dive into both the statistics historically of what's happened in terms of inflation here in Israel and in terms of the overnight interest rate. And we take that both in this slide and the next slide, and we kind of bring it together so that we can calculate what the right numbers are for each of our clients. Last but not least, it's important to understand that while I mentioned the generalities of what's possible for most people, obviously there are exceptions to those rules. In terms of financing and LTV, you can get up to 85. Technically, you can even get up to 90% financing. You can get business mortgages. You can even use a US LLC and have the LLC, that business entity, the legal entity, purchase the home with the mortgage. You have mortgages for retirees, which are a world unto their own. What it really pays to do is it pays to ask. If you're not sure and you want to see what's possible, then reach out and I'll gladly try and solve with you. Okay, when should you reach out? And with this, we're going to wrap up. You should reach out before you shop. Why? Because if you don't have a budget, how are you supposed to shop? So it's important to reach out ahead of time, figure out what the right numbers are for you, what you're able to purchase, and that way you're not going to be shopping for forever. We can do mortgages all over Israel, and if you have any further questions, I'd love to answer. Ask Rafi to put us in touch.
Great. Thank you so much, Natan. Okay, Abraham was having some technical difficulties, but he said that it's all fixed out. So let's go back to the legal aspects of buying a property in Israel. Abraham, you good?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Rafi. Thank you, Natan. And thank you all. Welcome. It's really a privilege to be here and to speak to all of you this night about Aliyah and about properties. And this is really, really making all of us happy. I will try to take the few minutes that we have to speak about a few important things that I want you to remember in real estate and specifically in legal aspects of real estate transaction, which can be very, very important to you. And I hope you will remember part of those things that I'm going to share with you. And for sure, please feel free to contact me whenever you want. You will see my details later on the slides. So let's start with two main options of purchasing. What I'm going to say now, the two main options are not unique to Israel. You can find those options in any country, every normal and modern and normal country in the world. And the two main options are, number one, first-hand purchase. You can buy from the contractor. This is option number one. You're going to the developer, you're going to the entrepreneur, and you buy a property first-hand. The second option is second-hand purchase. That means you're going to the market and you choose a property in the free market. These two options are available when you're coming to Israel or when you're looking to buy from abroad. You have two options, and I'm going to speak about the advantages and about the disadvantages in each one of them. So let's start with the first-hand purchase. You can see that in the line of the advantages. Number one, easy and smooth. The process, when you buy from a big company, let's say Africa, let's say Electra, that Eli ran, you will see him later on, and many other big companies, the process is more smooth and more easy with big companies. This is a big advantage. Number two, when I want you to remember that, big advantage when you buy from a contractor, or I would say most of the contractors, you get in return to every payment you are doing, independent bank guarantee. You can see this in the first line, bank guarantees. Every payment you are doing to the contractor, every payment you are making, that against that, you get a letter of independent bank guarantee. That means even if the contractor will be collapsed, even if the contractor will be bankrupt, even if the contractor will choose that he wants to go to the US and you will come to here to Israel, yeah, he doesn't want to do Aliyah, you will do Aliyah, but he will go away, okay, and will not give you and not provide you with the things that he told you to, that he will provide, which is for sure the property, even though you will have independent bank guarantee. And there is no better collateral that you can ask. So I want you to remember that this is a big advantage when you're going and buying from a contractor, from a developer. Another big advantage you can see is a warranty. Warranty, I will explain very, very shortly, because it is also very important for me that you will remember warranty. When you get the possession from the developer, you get the property, you go inside, you have some kind of a warranty. I'm not going to tell for how many years. Some things will be for the first year, some things will be for 4 years ahead of time. And for example, if you have a leak, you have a specific amount of time that you have a warranty. But I want you to remember those two things. When you're buying from a contractor, you have bank guarantees. Number one, you have a warranty for the physical situation of the property. And the disadvantages, I want to go and skip to that line. Disadvantages. Number one, most of the times you have index. When I'm saying index, very simply, you have to pay more than what is the actual amount, because there is something that's called inflation. I'm not going to go inside to explain, but this is disadvantage when you buy from a contractor. There is inflation. And also, during all those years that you did not complete the consideration, let's say you pay today 20% and only in 4 years time you're going to complete, all those years you have no income from the investment you did, no rent. This is the second disadvantage that I wrote. Someone wanted to say something? Okay, let's continue to the second-hand purchase. You can see that there are also...
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just one point that you left out, which I think is very important, is the 2080 point there, which in essence what Abraham meant is that a lot of the developers will let you put a certain percent down, and then the rest you pay over 2 or 3 years or once the apartment is ready. So we don't have to get into all the details now, but one big advantage when you do buy from a developer is you have an opportunity to put down, actually these days you can even put down less than 20%. So from a cash flow point of view, it's an important point to keep in mind.
Right. Thank you so much, Rafi. That's correct. And even indeed these days, I see many people do that, pay 20% today, and only in 4 years time, you pay another 80%. This is a big advantage. And again, the only reason I skip that, I don't want to give you all the information, because I know you're going to have a lot of information that's going to be told to you later on. I will say very, very shortly about second-hand purchase. Advantages, you have more supply. When I'm saying more supply, just understand, just imagine you have in any city, you have in any places you want. There is no any specific places. Here you have a massive new construction, and here, no, it's in all the market, all Israel. This is a big advantage. You can find exactly what is fit to your needs. Okay, this is really, really important. I don't want to go into all of those things. I want to speak to you about one disadvantage in second-hand purchase. I want you to remember that that very big disadvantage in second-hand purchase is that you buy the property as is. That means when you buy the property, there is no warranty. If we spoke beforehand that you have a warranty from the contractor, when you buy in the free market, there's no warranty. That means you need to be very, very careful. And indeed, myself, Rafi, all of us, we're really, really careful with those things to explain our clients, to do a very good engineer report Sometimes we have other solutions, but to be very careful with the physical situation of the property. So this is big disadvantage of second-hand purchase. And I would like to go very quickly about the taxes, and then we can continue. So I want to tell you very roughly about the taxes because it's very, very important. Roughly, all of you guys live abroad, all of you needs to pay, when you sign a contract, 8% purchase tax. This is by law, no way to change that. However, because you're going to do Aliyah, there is a way that we will reduce the tax. That's mean you pay the 8%. If you buy the property while you are still in the US, you pay everything, and then after specific amount of time you do Aliyah, we can get back to you all the money with interest and with linkage. You even did a very good money on your money that you paid to the tax authority. So please keep it in mind. Again, you need to come to Eretz Israel within specific amount of time, either 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. It depends if the property is under construction, if the property is not under construction, if you did Aliyah in the past, if you didn't do Aliyah in the past. So every case is different, but keep in mind that you have this option and you need to speak with us and we will give you all the information about it. Okay, this is about the tax. You can move on, Rafi. And yeah, one of the most important things we are doing, we do a very vast due diligence. We check the property, we check the rights of the property, we check that there are no liens, no mortgage, and no foreclosures. We check the property very, very deeply. And this is something that I am doing to you as your lawyer. For sure, we all take care and help you as a team. And this is really important as well. Rafi, you can go on. I want you to take with you 3 things when you want to buy a property in Israel. Number 1, remember to have your money in Israel before you sign any contract. I saw many times people signing a contract, the money was still in the US, and then they had a very big problems. You will see later on the slide about the money in Israel. Also, keep in mind that you need to have pre-approval mortgage. Mortgage is ready, pre-approval before you sign a contract. And also you need to have a lawyer that deals with overseas investors and that knows how to do those things. You can see my details below in the bottom of the slide. That's all. Wish you tzlacha rabah.
Thank you very much, Avram. Okay, now we're going to fast forward. Okay, so now we're going to move on to showcasing the 4 cities, the 4 communities, and we're going to start with Tamar Cohen, who is a resident in Modiin.
As Rafi said, my name is Tamar Cohen. I made Aliyah with my husband, 4 children, and my grandmother about 1.5 years ago. And we live in Buchman, which is one of the areas in Modiin. I'm sure Rebecca will highlight the different areas in Modiin. For those of you who don't know, Modiin is really perfectly centrally located. We're right on the train line. So we're 34 minutes by train to Yerushalayim. We're 22 minutes to the airport. So really very easy in terms of transportation, but that's not really the reason that we ended up here in Buchman in Modiin. We came with teenagers. We came with 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, 11-year-old, and a 5-year-old. We did a lot of research about where the soft landings would be. We felt it was important for our kids to not completely have tremendous culture shock all in one go. It was obviously quite a culture shock, but we chose an area where they would still be able to have an Anglo social network, and that we absolutely do have here in Modiin, although it's a very mixed and varied community. We were guided to this area specifically because Buchman is, we were told, the right part of Modiin for teenagers. In fact, Rebecca, who helped us to find our property, it was in her hands. She told us where to go. She found us the most amazing place, and here we are. So make sure you are comfortable and have a great relationship with your real estate agent, because really you're putting your future into their hands. I was not in the country at all during the process. I never saw the property before we signed. And so really that really all went down to her, which was, we are tremendously grateful. Modiin has a great, warm Anglo community, as I said, although there are lots of different parts of Modiin. So if you're looking for something not so Anglo, you can also find it. It's very mixed also in terms of young families, and also a great place for seniors. As I mentioned, my grandmother came with us on Aliyah. We came from London. She came from Florida. She lived with us here in the house for the first year, and then she moved to an area which I think Rebecca will tell you about, which is called the Dimri Towers. She's minutes away from great shopping. She's minutes away from the mall. She's really vibrant and independent and much, much busier than I am. Honestly, I don't know how she does it, but it's perfect for all sides of life. And Modiin has some really great school options because there are so many Olim here in Modiin. They're very used to welcoming Olim, both in terms of the community, but also in terms of the institutions. I'm going to leave you guys very quickly because it's a long evening and there's lots of amazing things to be shared. But I wanted to share 2 tips that I would tell anybody who's making Aliyah, particularly if you're coming with children, is to make sure that you are really transparent with your family about the reasons for making Aliyah, recognizing also for them that there will be challenges and helping them to understand that it's okay to both anticipate, expect, and experience those challenges, but reminding them throughout that the reasons we came here, what they were, and that we're doing this for them. And when you get text messages like I got this week from my daughter saying, thank you so much for bringing me here at 16-year-old when we plucked her out of her very comfortable life in England, you know, I know we did the right thing. I wish we'd done it sooner, but you know, it is really achievable. So don't give up heart. And the final thing I would say is photocopy everything a million times. I say it all the time. It's not a joke. Literally photocopy everything before you come. Lots and lots of times, all the different agencies are going to ask for it. When you go to the bank, they're going to want it. Photocopy your lease, photocopy your passports, photocopy anything and everything, and bring your medical records with you so that you have everything clear in a language that you understand. It takes some time to wrap your head around everything, but Israel is great with Olim. So do it, make the jump, and we'll be here to help you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tamar. All right, Rebecca, you're up.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you, Rafi, for inviting us. And thanks, Tamar, for the lovely introduction to our great city. Like Tamar said, anywhere you live in Modiin, you really can't go wrong. And I'm sure you're going to hear from a lot of different cities today as well. And the truth is, living in Israel is unlike living anywhere else in the world. Wherever you pick is the right place for you, is the right place for your family. And I'm sure you'll be very happy here. So I'm Rebecca Franks. I made Aliyah almost 8 years ago. We came to Modiin for a year. And within 2 weeks, decided 1 year wasn't long enough. And within 6 months, sold our home in Florida and bought a home in Modiin and made it our forever home. So I'd love to help you with finding a home in Modiin. And I work with Habayit Shalanu. We're a boutique agency here in Modiin. So when you're looking for a home, you know, obviously we need to have conversations and figure out what is the best fit for you. There are a few criteria we need to look at when we're deciding on where to buy in the city. First, we need to figure out the neighborhoods. So Tamar mentioned a couple of different neighborhoods, which are popular areas for Olim who are moving here. So we figure out what your demographic is. If you're moving with kids, older kids, younger kids, if you're retirees, we figure out what would be a good neighborhood for you. We figure out what your budget is, so we can figure out realistic expectations of what you can buy within budget. We then prioritize your needs. How many bedrooms do you need? How many bathrooms do you need? Do you need indoor area, outdoor area, accessibility? And then we figure out a time frame. And once we have all the pieces of the puzzle of what you're looking for, then we start our search to help you hone it and find the right place. So Modiin has a few different styles of homes. And it's important to know going in, you know, the definitions of what's what. So there are the semi-detached houses. These are the bigger homes in Modiin. They're obviously the most expensive type homes in Modiin. You mainly find them in Buchman, which is the neighborhood Tamar lives in, and some of the other neighborhoods too. They're the larger, more expensive properties. Then you'll often hear people talking about cottages. Cottages look and feel like a house because you're coming into your own private entrance, into your own, you know, your own home, but they're usually located between two roads on a hill. And so you kind of come down some stairs, you come into a cottage, you come down some more stairs, you go into a cottage. You have your own front door, you have nobody above you, but you do share walls with your neighbors, and you don't have your own driveway to pull up to your home. Then you have duplexes, which are basically 2-floor apartments. You can have a garden duplex, you can have a duplex with balconies. They're usually in a building, you go through a building to get to your duplex, or sometimes you will have a private entrance, but there might be people living above you. So it just basically refers to a 2-floor home. And then you also have apartments, which are usually 1-floor homes. You can have garden apartments or balcony apartments. Some of them are walk-up, some of them have lifts, some of them have Shabbos lifts, but there are different apartments. This is just a general overview of the Modiin map. So usually when people are moving to Modiin, there are other neighborhoods in the ones I've written on the map in English, but generally the popular areas are Buchman, which have some lovely big homes and a large Anglo community and very active big shul, KSYM. And as Tamar said, really lovely families ready to welcome you. Kaiser is another popular neighborhood with the Anglo community, which tends to be a bit younger. And then there's Nahariya, which tends to be even younger, usually young families with kids 8 and younger. Towards Nahariya. And then Dimri is in the center of town. It tends to attract a lot of seniors and retirees who are moving here and want the comforts of like-minded individuals nearby. So this is what I was just talking about with the thing. This kind of gives you an overview of people who fit in the different areas. And then I was going to just highlight a property in each of these 4 different neighborhoods, just to give you an idea of an example of the kind of properties that are out there. Maybe we can look around and see different things to fit your budgets in the different neighborhoods, but these are just examples of the types of homes you can find in Modiin. So this is on the market right now here in Kaiser. I actually live in a model very similar to this. It's walking distance to the main school in the neighborhood. It's right near parks and playgrounds. So in Kaiser, for around 4.85 million shekels, which is around $1.3 million, you can buy a 5-room cottage, so you have your own private entrance, with a 4 to 6 meter garden, a 25-meter balcony, a 52-meter rooftop, which is really lovely extra space. It comes with 2 parking spaces, 2 storage units, and this particular one is available in February. And it's a larger model apartment. The cottage is probably around 135 meters net size. This is an example of another property, of a property in Buchman. This is obviously a bigger home. It's asking 6.67 million shekels, which is around $1.8 million. And that gets you a nice, a bigger home. It's a 6-room cottage with a 120-meter garden, open views, you know, looking out to the hills. It comes with 2 private parking spots, which are actually in a garage. And a lot of people here will close off the garage and turn it into a den or a separate unit, and it gives you a lot of extra space. And also has 2 storage units, and this one's available already this summer. It's a lovely one in Brooklyn.
And just to convert from meters to square feet, if you can multiply the meters times about 11. So the garden, for example, is about 1,300 square feet is, the approximate equation when you're trying to convert from meters to feet.
So Nahariya is a newer neighborhood. Nahariya has only been around for about 3 or 4 years. So most of the apartments there are newer and more updated. This is a nice 5-room apartment on a street called Yair. It's kind of the apartments in Yair are very popular because they circle around a very large playground. So it's a really popular area for kids, and it's right near the lower religious school, and also near to secular schools. It's a 5-room apartment with a 16-meter balcony. Comes with 2 parking spots and a storage unit. And this one's available in August also. And this one's asking 4.27 million shekels, which is around $1.16 million. So all of those are just kind of examples of nice homes in the different neighborhoods. But obviously, each of the neighborhoods have smaller and larger properties depending on people's budgets and needs. And this is an example of a Dimri property. So Dimri is the area which tends to attract more seniors. They're larger apartments than a lot of people feel like they need, but a lot of people would choose to live in the Dimri towers because of the ease and convenience of being near so many other friends. It's very easy to pop from one building to the other. People always say that there's mahjong and poker and art classes and cooking classes and volunteer projects. So there's a lot of, like Tamar said about her grandma, there's a lot going on in the buildings, which makes it a really lovely place to move to. They're 5-room apartments, which means 4 bedrooms. It comes with a 14-meter balcony, 2 parking spots, and a storage unit. This one is available this August, and it's asking 4.09 million shekels, which is around $1.1 million. So those are things that you could buy, which are secondhand. I know Abraham spoke about the secondhand versus on paper. Those are all properties within Modiin that you can buy secondhand that are all available in the market currently. Now I'm going to just briefly touch upon a new development that's starting just outside of Modiin in an area called Mavo Modiin. It's a new yeshuv that they're building or due to build right outside of Modiin, and this is a great opportunity to buy on paper. These properties will be available in about 2.5 years. They overlook the Ben Shemed forest. There will be a community of around 210 families. And it's going to have preschools, and it's got 4 synagogues, and it's got playgrounds and community center. And these are places you can buy on paper now and get the keys in 2.5 years. They're 5- and 6-room townhouses, garden apartments, and duplexes, and their prices there start at 4.95, which is around I don't know, $1.6 million. I didn't do the calculation. $1.3 million. And this is on paper, so you do have the flexibility of being able to make some changes. Also, if you're considering moving to Modiin, we have a Modiin WhatsApp group, which just kind of shares with you different, news and details what's going on in the market as it pertains to Modiin. It shares different things that have closed in the past few months, so you can see what actual closing property prices are. And it shares with you what's coming on the market, so you get insider glimpses of what's coming on the market, as well as question and answers. So if that's of interest to you and you're considering Modiin, Rafi can certainly send you the link, and we welcome you to join us online. Good luck.
Thanks so much.
Happy to help with any questions, and thanks so much, everybody.
Okay, now we're going to move over to Nahariya and Achziv, and Karen and Artie, you're up. Karen, I think you're on mute. There you go.
There we go. We planned our Aliyah about 3 years ago and got in touch with Olim advisors, and they have been amazing. Every step of the way, they're there to help us out. We came on a pilot trip, which they help us arrange. We traveled up and down the country. We probably checked into 10 or 12 different cities and towns and areas that we were interested in. Things that were important to us were being by the beach, a growing Anglo community, coffee shops, big part coffee shops. Nahariya, Achziv have all of it. And that's why we chose to move up to the north of Israel. So far, so good. It's a quieter area, a smaller community. Both Karen and I grew up in fairly large cities in the States, and we were done with the cities. We just wanted something quiet where we could retire and have fun with our dog along the beach. And did I mention coffee shops? We like the coffee shops. And that's transportation is available. Shopping is walkable. Nahariya's got an amazing downtown area. And it just seems like the place for us to be. We have all the services that we would need. And again, coffee shops.
So a couple of tips. We're just here 8 weeks now. Our container was just delivered last week after being at sea for 2 months. So we have boxes everywhere. We have no idea what's in a lot of them and where we're going to put anything once we do get it out of the box. So I would really encourage everyone to declutter. We had made a footprint of what the container ship size was in our garage to try to get a sense of what that means. And that was really helpful. What I think for us, we don't realize, even though people told us, is that the apartments are much smaller. Everything's smaller. They don't have closets here. You have wardrobes, and they don't hold much at all. If you go to IKEA, you'll get an idea of what a wardrobe means. Even our dishes, now I realize our dishes, like a regular size dinner plates, too big for Israel. So, just really rethink your stuff because you can get everything here, things that you can't get. Definitely bring them with you. Don't beat yourself up about that. I did it, and I'm happy with some of the things I brought. Some of the things I'm wondering, what was I thinking? Don't be afraid to ask questions. Facebook, everything runs on Facebook in Israel. It's unbelievable. You can get all kinds of information. But we chose to work with Olim advisors, the team that Rafi and Alon set up for us with Natan and Abraham. Israel Transfer have been phenomenal. Meir, our advisors, held our hand the whole way. And even after 8 weeks, we're still needing a lot of help and asking a lot of questions. And everyone's been phenomenal. professional, helpful, informative. I highly recommend it. I also really recommend the pilot trip. We had no idea where we wanted to live. We're moving here basically by ourselves. And so we could live anywhere in Israel. So that was extremely helpful. And Olim advisors helped us to set that trip up. Eventually, we kept coming back to the sea and being near the water. And that's why we chose the area that we did. I think one thing that, at least as Americans, we're used to getting things done quickly, and things are a much different pace here. And after 8 weeks, I think we're finally moving a little bit more into the Israeli pace, and it's okay knowing everything's going to be fine. So just get here, don't worry, everything will be fine. And good luck.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Artie. Thanks so much, Karen. It's our pleasure to help you, and it's just a pleasure to see you finally here in Israel. All right, Eliran, you're up.
Hey guys, how are you? Good evening. So let's talk about Achziv a little bit. Achziv is a community. I will start with that. It's a separate, you know, it is a private neighborhood in the US is something that is more common. In Israel is less common, but it's a massive project that is being built by two of the biggest companies in Israel, Electra Residence and Tzemach Hammerman, both public and considered to be in the top 10. And we built a whole new neighborhood on the front of the National Reserve Achziv. You can move on in the slides. I will explain a little bit also about the companies and about Achziv. So Tzemach Hammerman, Electra Residences, as I said, we build across Israel from Be'er Sheva, the most southern one from Tzemach, and the northern one is Achziv. You can move on. I will start talking about the West Galilee because you're not from here and it's important for you. I'm sure that whoever came here and visit the north, visit the West Galilee. West Galilee is actually the northwestern part in Israel. Is a beautiful place to visit. A lot of nature and beautiful beaches, lagoons. Also sites like the Rosh Hanikra, that is the tunnels that goes by the sea, and also a lot of green areas. Nahal Hardalit River is an excellent place to go and do picnics. So I decided personally, after 15 years of living in Tel Aviv, and my first child was born there, to move to the north and to move to Achziv. And me and my wife don't regret it. In the beginning, we didn't think it will be such a good things to do, but we thought it will be only for half a year, but we end up almost 5 years living there. So I recommend just to come and visit the West Galilee. Whoever comes to Israel, it's a beautiful place to be. A lot of touristic activities, from ATVs to wineries and breweries and bakeries. I think we understood that. You can move on. Where we are located is actually in front of the National Reserve Achziv. It's if you walk slowly, like I do with my daughters on my back, it's about 4 minutes from the house to the beach. There is no ups, no downs, just slow walking from the beach to the house or vice versa. We're located in the northern part of Nahariya. Municipality, we do belong to Nahariya, but the population and the crowd that buys and live in Achziv is very different. And I will describe a little bit more further, but just to geographically to put you on the map, Achziv is the northern part of Nahariya at about 3.5 kilometers north of the last street of Nahariya. The brand of Achziv is considered to be one of the vacation brands in Israel, like Eilat, like the Kinneret, the Galil Sea. So Achziv is also considered to be one of the of the most touristic area. Everyone knows what is Achziv. Everyone that is a little bit older than me celebrated festivals, love festivals in the Club Med and in the Achziv Beach, and knows this area very well. People from Tel Aviv and from the center of Israel visit here almost yearly because it's considered to be one of the biggest, the best beaches in Israel. And you can see the photos of the beach, full of lagoons, very unique. I like to be there with my family. We have like our own private pool, very clear water, a lot of activities around the beach, like snorkeling, diving, water sports, etc. Yes, there are also 7 islands in front of the neighborhood, a little bit up north. The biggest one is just in front of the neighborhood. We all see it from our windows. It's called the Love Island. Used to be a restaurant on this island, but it's enough for a different story. This is a part of the National Reserve. As I said, a lot of water activities for the extremists among us, like you see in front of you, from kayaking to supping and surfing, etc. But whoever likes coffee shops like Artie, we have it as well. The pace, if we talked about the pace in Achziv and in Israel, the pace is in Achziv, it's much lower. So this is more suitable for people that want to relax, to have a good time around the beach, northern nature style, and not the big fuss of Tel Aviv, like I had both in my life. This we needed a little bit of an update. We purchased another land. This is, as I said, is one of the biggest projects. It's the biggest project of the two companies. It's written 748 units. We already purchased lately another 300 units. So it's more than 1,000 units that we're building in this neighborhood. The whole neighborhood is being built by us, except villas that you can purchase the land and build for yourself, but it's a whole different process. Apartments in Achziv, it's only through Electra and Samach in Achziv.
I think just one point to add earlier on is that the buildings here that you can see, you'll have a view to the ocean. There's some cottages, homes that are being built, and that's a separate project. But anyone that buys in anyone that buys an apartment, I think it's in the 3rd floor and up, will have an unobstructed view directly to the beach. And this area over here, the green area, is a nature preserve that legally nothing can be built on. So it's just a spectacular view that people have who buy these apartments.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning it. The whole project is being designed by one architect for both of the companies. So we are looking at this project as something more holistic, and you can imagine that an architect is not building it a building after a building and a patch after a patch that everyone tries to steal the beach from another one. In this case, it's all considered to be as much of sea view as possible for as much as apartment. As Rafi said, from 2nd floor you can start seeing the view, but if you want to be very clear view of the beach, you will need to go from 3rd floor and up. I forgot mentioning that more than 400 families already live in this project. This is a living community with the kindergartens and a shul, a synagogue, and the commercial center is under construction at this point. There will be a school if whoever needs it. Right now, there are school buses like you have in the US that takes to the school. There is a playground. There are buses that take you to the train. But before I will get all of this, I will try to explain about this whole structure. This whole structure is built like 2 U's, 2 U's like the letter U, and in the middle of each U, you will have the villas. The villas are low, they are up to 7.5 meters high, and in this way, you can see as much as sea view from every apartment that we build. You see in front of you right now the whole neighborhood. On the west side, you see the National Reserve. On the northern side, you see used to be called Banana Beach, and now it's Achziv. And a little bit more up north, this is where it was Club Med. One guy declared of it as a state of Achziv, but this is a different story. And Betzet, and so on. We can continue.
There's also a shul here, just to mention. We actually have an apartment. Our family has an apartment there, so I know it very well. There's a nice congregation here. So it's a nice, gives you all the options. If you want to go to shul, there's an option here to go as well.
And it's not only Sfaradis or Ashkenazis, it's everyone together in Achziv. Very, very special place to get. Community-wise, because it's a part of, it's not close to Nahariya by foot, okay? It's a separate community. So it became like a moshav or a kibbutz with a community that is really combined together. A very active WhatsApp group for the ones who love it. And also holidays and Purim and Shavuot and everything is on the main area. Also, a community center is very active. 3 different kinds of people normally buy it, or towards pension, people that are from 50 up to 70 that looking for a good place to retire, or young couples that really adore this type of living, or vacation investors. This is also the third type of people that purchase in Achziv. We can continue. So as we said, shuls and everything, and also the transportation wise, you can get to Tel Aviv with the 1 bus and 1 train. That's it, and you're in Tel Aviv. The train station is 7 minutes by car. The bus will take about 20 minutes to get to the train, and from there you can go everywhere. That's it.
You want to talk about prices, everyone, or should they?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. The price range, because we are up north, and it's a neighborhood that has a lot of potential also of increasing because it's being built. So every step we take is making the prices higher, and we're right now on midway. So there is a lot more to go on. Prices starts around $500,000. This what I will. It depends what the dollar rate exactly in the same point, but we are not as expensive as the center of Israel. And this is an opportunity also to invest in the north of Israel. For a 4-roomer that is 3 bedrooms and a living room will be around $500,000. And that's where prices starts. It's not getting much higher than that, $600,000 or $700,000 for a 5-roomer. This is more or less the average.
Good. Great. Thank you so much, Eliran.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move over to Netanya and Shaya. You're up. Shaya? We can't hear you. No. Shaya, we still can't hear you. I think you're having problems again. I don't know. Okay. Try and maybe log back on. We can see if we can hear you again. No. Okay. We'll see if we can get you going a little bit. Darren, I'll hand it over to you to talk about the properties in Netanya.
Thank you, Rafi. Good evening, everybody, wherever you are in the world. It's been a pleasure hearing what everyone's got to say, because everyone's speaking from personal experience of making Aliyah. And also I was in the same boat. And I made Aliyah about 18 years ago, straight to Netanya. And a lot of what we see now was just sand dunes. So we talk a little bit about the area, about the city of Netanya. It was always predominantly a very popular place for English speakers to come and make Aliyah, to come on holiday. It was always a comfortable place for them to settle. And even now, it's still very, very popular. It's situated obviously along the water. It's situated in the middle of the country. And we've got various different communities going from the south to the north that maybe 20 years ago were not there. There was just lots of building going on. So now these building, the areas are complete. There's new populations and new communities or developed. And together with the community comes schools and synagogues and everything that goes with all the infrastructure. So if we look at the picture now, which is on Rafi's screen, this is an area in the south of Netanya called Area Mim and Ramat Poleg. So we tried to show the picture of both places, which are, it's really one big neighborhood. And I would go as far as to say possibly one of the most popular neighborhoods along the coast in the whole of Israel, with people from outside of Israel, lots of Americans, lots of English people, but it's a small percentage of the population, there's a lot of people. So it's not like walking in a place where there's only speaking English, it's not like that. And let's say 5-6 years ago, there were mainly retired people coming. Now there's lots of young families, and there's a huge amount of young families already here. The community grows so much, they ran out of synagogues. So now they've got an American synagogue. That does not mean it's predominantly in a religious neighborhood. There's lots of religious people, but there's lots of irreligious people as well. And we've got schools, we've got high schools in the area. And this is the only part of the Netanya that's not built on a cliff. So if we can see the pictures here, it's flat to the water. We've listed here, there's a shopping mall in the neighborhood, community center, tennis center, nature reserve, lots of restaurants, cafes, and 99% of all the eating places are all kosher. So that makes a big difference. There's parts of Israel where unfortunately there's not a lot of kosher places. In Netanya, there is a lot, and in this specific area, there's a lot. Now the area of AMM is just to the top of the screen, and it's all buildings. Just to give you an idea of prices, the prices start just over about 4.2 million shekels upwards, and rental value is around about 8,000 shekels upwards. Some have swimming pools, some don't, some have synagogues. Okay, so here we're looking at one home here. This is 400 meters from the water. It's about a 10-minute walk. This originally was 4 bedrooms, and they converted it into 3. You do have sea view, as I say, we're close to it, and we're close to the shopping centre. So if this is not for rent, but if it was to rent, this is a typical apartment that one could rent for 8,500 shekels a month. There's no swimming pool here. It's a simple building with a play area in front, and it's close to all the restaurants. Okay, let's move along, Rafi. Okay. So this is the north of Netanya, built on a place called Nitza Boulevard. 40, 50 years ago, this was still a very, very popular place for English speakers to come and live because they had a young Israel shul. You could walk into town. They've got a nice beach, and it's very close to the Haredi area of Netanya, which is called Kiryat Sanz, which is just to the left here. So, if one's religious, they have private beaches and separate bathing beaches. This is really popular with a lot of people. It used to be predominantly an older population, but over a period of time, older people move on and new people come in, and there's new construction. So it's changing over. So many years it used to be 70, 75-year-old plus. Now it's younger. We've got 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, even young families. So it's changing. Now, if we're buying or renting on the sea, it's obviously going to be more expensive than 2 or 3 blocks back. Just as a guideline, let's say 3-bedroom apartments along the seafront will cost probably close to 3 million shekels. And if you go further back, maybe 3 or 4 blocks, it will be cheaper. Depends on the building and the facilities and the condition of it. One building next to another can be a big difference in price. And we have swimming pools in some of the buildings here, some with concierge. There's everything available. And in the 2 or 3 blocks back, you see some newer construction. And there is new construction going up in the area. So if new construction is a route that anyone's thinking of, it is a possibility. And some are, the middle stage of the construction. Can't quite see it on this picture. Netanya is known for the beaches, known for the kosher places, known for the community. And these are just 2 communities we've chosen to share tonight. But obviously we're limited to time. And there are other communities. And it's a very, very popular area for Anglos to live. And I'm a firm believer of location, location, location. Many people on speaking tonight have all made Aliyah. as well as I have. I've been here almost 18 years, and we chose a city that has come to be our home from day one. And we chose not to move from city to city. So location is really, really important. As everyone said tonight, to do a pilot trip, come and meet the people, come and go to the shuls, meet the people, speak to the rabbis, and spend time in the area, and you have a good understanding of the area. Okay, that's me for tonight. If anyone would like, I've got this one here, sorry. Okay, this is an example of, in this area, it's 3 rows back, or 3 blocks back. It's about a 10-minute walk to the water. This is a brand new building by one of Israel's largest contractors called Africa Israel, and it's called Savion City. So this is on the 25th floor. And it's 142 meters with 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. As we can see from the pictures, amazing sea view as we're over all the buildings in front of us. And the view cannot change. The sea's not going anywhere. And this is on the market for 4.1 million shekels. Or if it was to rent, it would be in the regions of 9,000 shekels a month. So you can see there is older construction, there's newer construction, there's smaller units, larger units. We've even got 1-bedroom units in the area, which is very unusual. But they tend to build now 3 or 4 bedrooms. They don't tend to build small units. It's just purely down to the demand. Is that the last one? Okay, so here's some contact information. If anyone would like information, even if it's at the beginning stage, we've got lots of patience. We work with people for many, many years until they choose to rent or buy. We'll gladly be part of the purchasing process or the renting process. We do both. We get you get the same service, whether it's rental or purchasing, and we give you the same amount of time, and we respect everyone's decision whether they choose to rent or buy. If you want to rent for a year or 2 years and then buy, that's an option. Whatever the decision is, we respect it and we assist and help them along through the process. So good luck, everybody.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you so much. Okay, now we're going to showcase our last city, and then we're going to take some of the questions. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Harry Margolin, who is a Jerusalem resident.
Thanks, Rafi. First, I'd like to extend greetings to some of our friends who I see are attendees tonight. Why Jerusalem? Obviously, for me, it was always a dream since the time I went to yeshiva here when I was 17 years old. My wife and I made Aliyah in January 2022, although we kind of did something in reverse. We bought our property in 2016, our apartment in 2016, and had it all prepared and ready for us once we made Aliyah. Just a couple things about Jerusalem. Obviously, tremendous shiurim and Torah study, if that's what you're interested in terms of part of making the Aliyah process. It's a tremendous Anglo community. We live in an area where you have a tremendous amount of Anglos. Great medical facilities for those of you who are senior citizens that are worried about medical facilities. We have Ein Kerem and Shaarei Tzedek. Besides I mentioned Torah and shiurim, but there's also great cultural events here. We have the Jerusalem Theater, and there's a lot of things to do in terms of the evening activities as well. Great food and dining, and I would say our coffee shops are as good as the ones in Nahariya. Transportation is very easy in Jerusalem. We have obviously good bus service, light rail, get anywhere with taxi. You don't really even need a car if you're going to spend most of your time in Jerusalem. It's a very walkable city, and you find that many people spend a lot of time walking the city in terms of instead of using a car within the city. Shopping is plenty of shopping here, and you can also get a lot of Anglo products that you might still want to have in terms of some of the groceries and other shops. Obviously Jerusalem is a little more expensive than probably some of the areas, but the real estate values and the real estate people can tell you about it have really maintained their value over the years, and in fact have grown exponentially. The one tip I would say that I would recommend to everybody is get help. Besides Olim advisors, we had all of our documentation, our passports, our driver's license within, I think, 4 or 5 weeks. But there are other people as well that can really help you in terms of the Aliyah process. Your lawyers can help you with utilities and getting, your water, your electricity set up. They can help you with the Horace Kevin in terms of maybe management fees or other payments that you have to make on a regular basis. And the one other thing that worries people a lot is medical. And there also are people here that are medical advisors that basically can help you with appointments. They can help you explain the process. I saw some questions about if you want to see a doctor fast, they can help arrange it. If you can't get it through the typical pods, there's something called Sharap, which is it's called private, and it's not crazy expensive like it would be in the States. So those are just some of, I think, the quick tip that I would advise is get as much help as possible. You'll really make your transition much easier.
Great. Thank you so much, Howie. Okay, Alon, up to you.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Alon Ben David, as you can see. I grew up in Yerushalayim. I love Yerushalayim. I know it quite well. And I also really love helping people find their place to live in Yerushalayim. And especially I love helping Olim Chadashim settle in Yerushalayim. So really, what I do is combine business and pleasure. So I'm part of the Remax Vision team. I'm a realtor. We have 42 agents, each and every one. We are probably the largest office in Yerushalayim. And each and every one of us specializes in a certain area, even though we do help each other. And I would say that most of the realtors in our office are English speaking. Some are very fluent, some are less, but they all are very experienced with helping people who live abroad, who want to come in and make their purchase or their rental when they are long distance. So we are very experienced in that, and this is something that we should take into consideration. I want to say right next to the next one, Rafi. Next, okay. So I think many mentioned before all the Rafi did speak about all the things they want to consider it when you want to consider when you make Aliyah, which neighborhood you want to live in, all the things you have to think about, talk about, what suits you, if you're familiar with a particular community that you want to be in. But one of the most important issues that you have to keep in mind is really how big the place you need, and what would be the budget that you have, and therefore, when you know what the budget is, you would ask yourself, okay, so what neighborhood would fit me and our budget? So how are we going to go about that? So we're gonna do something, Rafi. We're going to do something. We're not going to just show you a few different areas, but rather what we're going to do, or different houses, we're going to assume that we have a budget of $1.25 million, which is somewhat an average type of a budget when we come to Yerushalayim, and see what we can get in different neighborhoods with that particular budget. So I'm going to go through 4 places, 4 neighborhoods. We're going to start with the first one, Givat Vradim. That's located about west of Katamon. This particular apartment, if it would be in Katamon, would cost more. But here we have this community of Givat Vradim. Recently we've seen more Olim come into this neighborhood as well. So we have a 5-room apartment with 123 square meters, which is 1,324 square feet, and with a beautiful view of the valley. 2 porches, one of them with a sukkah, and realize that having parking in apartments in Israel in Yerushalayim, I'm sorry, is not always there. It's a big advantage that we don't always have. We're going to go to the next neighborhood and see Alon. Let's see. Here we're going a little bit further out, the other direction, east of if we took Katamon as a sort of central. So east of that would be Baka and Arnona, and then we're going to be in Amor and Atziv. And therefore, we get really much more for the same budget, more or less. 150 square meters is 1,614 square feet. And this is really, and we also get a private garden and parking. And this is really a very strong growing Olim community in recent years, really mostly because you get much more for your money. Now we're gonna go to a neighborhood, which is really upscale. The most sought after maybe neighborhood in Yerushalayim. People really like this location very much. As you can see, we can get here 2 bedrooms with a beautiful living room and a magnificent view of the Knesset and the Israeli Museum. 89 square meters is 958 square feet. And this is more or less what we can get here in that kind of budget in Rehavia. I would like to try now to introduce to you something different, and I'm going to go with what Rafi in the very beginning of the session mentioned, and this is a different concept. Now remember, prices in Yerushalayim are always going up all the time. Even in this past year, when during the war or the year before, the prices a little bit stabilized and went down, in Yerushalayim continued to go up. And therefore, many people that want to buy a place in Yerushalayim, they need to sell their existing home wherever they live now before they can, it's to be able to fund the entire cost for their place in Yerushalayim. Now, if you want to make sell your house where you live now just in a few years and you can't do it immediately, so here's the idea. We go into a new project. The new project is being built, as they was explained before. I'm taking an example of this project in Kiryat Yovel. Kiryat Yovel is a neighborhood right past Beit Vagan, south of Beit Vagan. And the location here is fantastic. We have here the light rail goes on this road. This existing light rail, and there's going to be another light rail going to be going on this road over here. Now, many people like going into new projects because eventually they're going to get a new home. And I think someone else also mentioned all the advantages you get from that. Some would think that there's a little bit of a disadvantage. You don't know what kind of people are going to be your neighbors. But I would like to say that in stage 2 already, 30 buyers from Miami have already purchased in stage 2. So if you want to consider, let's say, stage 3, which is going to be ready in 4 years, you can get along some friends and go into the stage 3 project where they have also a lot of sukkah balconies. I want to take an example of one apartment that we have there in the project, and here we get a 5-room apartment. 133 square meters is 1,432 square feet, and we have all we need is we have a porch, we have storage, and we have, of course, the parking. Now let's see all the real advantage of. Go to the next slide, please. So what I started talking about is that the big advantage of going into a project is that we pay now between 20 or 15 or 20% of the cost, and not like taking a mortgage. We don't have to pay anything until the 3 months before the project is ready and you get the key for the project. And during this whole time, when you paid only 20% of the cost, you get 100% of the increase of the value that you most probably will have throughout those years until the project is ready. So this is a really way to secure yourself. If you know that you're planning an Aliyah, or even if you're planning to move earlier, but you know that it will take time until you sell your place in where you live now, this is a really fantastic way to secure yourself in terms of the value that you get for that. Now, I would say that this is not the only project, of course, in Yerushalayim. I just took this as an example. Also, I mentioned only 3 neighborhoods in Yerushalayim. There are at least 10 different neighborhoods that many Olim live in. I would just mention maybe Ramat Eshkol, that is more suitable for Haredi crowd. Ramot is a very big neighborhood and many private housing. I would just conclude and say that I'm there, anxious to get your phone calls, to be there to help you with anything that you need. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Alon. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to stop the sharing, and I just want to go. We'll take some questions. I know we're running a little long, but there are a lot of good questions here. So while I look at the questions, I just want to put up a poll again. If you didn't have a chance to answer it when we first started, if you can just take minutes, we just, again, want to really understand what other questions, what other topics you're interested in, so we can follow up with you. So if you can do that, and then let me just scroll through the polls. Netanya, there's a question here about somebody's asking if they can get a mortgage if they're in the 80s. So can you just briefly talk about what options they might have?
Yeah, so the first two options for getting a mortgage in your 80s, let me just start off with saying that Israel does indeed have what we call age discrimination. The older you are, the harder it is to get a mortgage. So you have reverse mortgages, and you have the bank's version of a reverse mortgage, which is considerably cheaper, known as a pensioner's mortgage. Sometimes it's worth balancing between getting part of your mortgage here in Israel to the extent that you can, because there's a lower LTV, a lower loan to value, and then making up some of it either with a down payment or potentially financing from the States. You can mix and match there as well. And sometimes you have options of, including children, that then lowers the average age and allows you a more flexible mortgage. That also works.
Okay, great. I see there's a question here about rentals. I know that both Alon and Rebecca would be more than happy to help you find a rental in Jerusalem and Modiin. So we'll send out the recording, and you'll have the contact information. You can always reach out to me. We focus primarily on apartments or properties to buy, because that's a more complicated process. But absolutely, as Darren mentioned as well, all the realtors here are more than happy to help you find a rental as well. There's a question here about the closing costs, and so the approximate figure is 11% of the value of the property, and it's broken down. And typically, lawyers will charge about 1% plus VAT. Realtors will charge about 2% plus VAT, and then it's the 8% that was mentioned as a purchase tax if you're a foreign resident. So that's the approximate closing cost is about 11%. There's a question here about Olim advisors versus Nefesh B'Nefesh. We complement and supplement Nefesh B'Nefesh. It's not as if you have to choose between the two of us. Nefesh B'Nefesh is an amazing organization that will help you with the Aliyah process, with the bureaucracy and the paperwork. But as you've seen, we will help you with the practical challenges of finding homes, finding communities, finding people like the presenters today who can help you. Let's see what else here. Medical facilities, Nahariya, which is a 5-minute drive away, has a hospital. There's doctors. Karen and Artie, found their doctors. Absolutely, in Nahariya, there's all the medical facilities that you will need.
And the best dentist I saw in Israel.
The best what?
Dentist I had in Israel.
Okay, there you go. And he runs from Tel Aviv, so
she dropped, but she was there.
Let's see what else. The question here, Alon, about Kiryat Yovel, how far is it from the Kotel? Or
okay, that it is quite far. If you want to walk, it would be about an hour walk. It's further than Beit Vagan, so it's about a 10-minute walk from Beit Vagan. So if you know Beit Vagan, then add another 10 minutes to that. It's not really. If you like to walk to the Kotel, I would not choose Kiryat Yovel, that project for that. I would go to a project which is maybe more in Almar and Atziv. That would be a little bit closer to the Kotel. Okay. If you want to choose a project, so there are other options. Okay. If I may just say one thing that I forgot to say before, and that is that you don't need to decide now where you want to live. You can go into a project and you save on whatever it is, and when you come, then you decide, okay, I'm happy in this community, good. If not, I sell and I buy elsewhere. Okay, so I just forgot to say that line.
And in fact, we have a couple that Darren's helping in Netanya who came on a pilot trip, came on vacation, and really felt Netanya was not for them. And then after coming and Darren drove them around, they ended up realizing that that is where they want to end up. And now they're going through, and please God, will close in an apartment. So as everyone's mentioned, pilot trips are extremely important to get a better sense of the communities. Abraham, there's a question here about opening up a bank account, an Israeli bank account. Can you just answer the question quickly? Somebody needs to, somebody's a foreign buyer. How can you help them with that part of the process?
Thank you, Rafi. So in general, if someone is living abroad, we will ask him to sign some documents. Sometimes we send him to the consulate, sometimes to a notary, public notary. Sometimes we need a postal also, depends, every case is different. When we get all those papers here in Israel, we go to the bank, we'll open the account for you.
Okay, great, thank you. So there was a question here about transferring funds. I was going to ask Daniel or Eitan. Let me just see 1 second. I think it's towards the beginning. Oh, the question was what do they need to do in terms of the process, Eitan or Daniel? If somebody wants to open up an account, what are the steps that they need to take to do that?
There are different ways to do it. If you're an Israeli citizen, you could actually open an account online. You still need to get in touch with us and we'll just explain everything. If you're not an Israeli citizen, you don't have 2 Israeli IDs, we have to have a face-to-face meeting, but we have reps all over America. You could come to one of our offices here. Just get in touch with us and we'll explain everything and get the account open. But there are different ways to do it.
Okay, great.
One thing I will say also about the previous question is that we at Israel Transfer can actually make payments for you. So you don't have to open a bank account in order for us to make those payments.
Good point. Thank you. Okay.
I'm going to jump in just very quickly, but you do have to have an Israeli bank account for an Israeli mortgage.
Yes, for mortgages.
That's a good point.
Right. Okay. I think there's some other questions here, but that gets into a lot of the details. So as I mentioned beforehand, please feel free to reach out to us. We're going to send the recording. So everyone will have everyone's contact information. The last slide of the presentation. I'll include everyone's contact information in the email as well. And with that, I just want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your advice. And to those of you who are looking to make Aliyah, buy a home in Israel, we really want to encourage you to go through the process. We want to wish you the best of luck and let us know how we can help. Take care, everyone. Have a Shavua Tov. All the best.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Nice to meet you all.